Fala aí galera, beleza? Tô aqui na Goblin TV mais uma vez, recebendo um convidado cabuloso, um cara de muita importância para o metal, simplesmente criador do death metal. Para você que está chegando agora no canal, seja muito bem-vindo, não se esqueça de se inscrever, ativar a notificação e se você curtir a entrevista, deixe seu like e compartilhe com seus amigos. Well, if it wasn't for this gentleman here, there wouldn't be this musical genre that we all love, which is called death metal. So it is truly an honor to welcome Mr. Jeff Becerra to Goblin TV. What's up, Jeff? How are you doing?
Hey, how's it going? It's good to be here at Goblin TV. It's just I'm honored to be here. It's great.
Awesome. First of all, how are you health-wise? Because I heard that you went through some surgeries recently. Is everything okay with you now?
Yeah. I'm on the mend. I'm doing pretty good. I can't tour for another at least eight or 9 months, probably 8 months. But I feel like I can. Like I'm up and around, and like everything's good. I just don't want to press it. I want to follow the doctor's orders and not mess it up. So but I'm good. I'm good. I'm better than I have been in a long time. So
I'm glad to hear this. And in 2019, you released the Revelations of Oblivion album, which is a hell of an album. Approximately 2 years after its release, how do you see it? How does it fit in your discography, in your career? How important is this album for you?
It is important. Like every album is important. I'm eager to get the next album out though, because I don't want to keep stalling my career. I want to keep pumping out and make up for lost time. Yet COVID hit, and this surgery hit, and so Nuclear Blast has been very patient with me. But I'm impatient and wanting to put out the best possible album. So I'm not going to rush anything, but we're definitely working on the next album now. And so far, it's probably the heaviest album so far. So.
Because it took a while. Sometimes we get to read some useless stuff on the internet. Like, for instance, I just found out that Revelations of Oblivion was this almost 33-year gap between Revelations of Oblivion and Possessed Scribbles full length.
Yeah, so 33 years.
It's the 16th longest period between two studio albums of all time. So,
really?
Yep. But you're not willing to break this record, right?
It's weird because I don't feel old, man. I feel like I'm just getting started, even though I'm kind of beat up. I just feel like, I always feel like, Possessed is one of those bands that will never get famous, like big. So it always feels like, if I can just do this, maybe I'll hit big, or if I can just do this. But then that's kind of like the carrot and stick, but the thing that slows you down is like you don't want to put out any shitty albums. You want to put out the best possible album, because at the end of the day, I'm just an entertainer. We're just entertainers, and if we can't be entertaining, then what are we doing? So I want to make sure to put out something really, really good that people will, people will enjoy. But I mean, of course, the nature of Possessed is that people either love it or they hate it. You know what I mean? So I want the people that love it to love it, and the people that hate it to really hate it. Yeah.
Yeah. Either way, it was definitely worth the wait, man. And you mentioned Nuclear Blast? I believe you have a 3-album contract, right?
Yeah, I still have 2 more albums with them at least. I mean, I can't see leaving Nuclear Blast. I just want to make them proud and do justice to the label,
Right, and you are a special guest on the new Troops of Doom EP on a track called The Monarch, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I love Brazil. I mean, statistically, Brazil is one of our countries that people really love Possessed most in. So I think that we have a special bond. I don't know why. Maybe it's because we're Hispanic, or because it's just that Brazilians are fucking metalheads, man, straight out. Like certain countries are more metal. I think that Brazil is a very metal country, So to be with Jairo and Marco and all the people in Troops of Doom, it was just great to be involved with that kind of OG scene, and like I said, I'm a fan of all things Max. So anything that has to do with Max, like I'm on board. And I love Sepultura, and I love at all the phases. And I just like Max. I like the whole origins of Sepultura, all the old school Sepultura, and all that. I just love it. I don't know what else to say. Is that it's just an honor, and it was really fun. It was a fun project.
So did you know each other previously? Or how did it take place?
They hit me up. Marco hit me up and explained who they were, and then I kind of thought, and I put two and two together. I was like, oh yeah, that's right, And then it's not that I didn't know who they were. I just hadn't thought of them in a long time, And so it was cool, It was really cool. And I like that kind of origin, to jam with the kind of an origin, click of what became really great things, So.
Nice. And speaking of Brazilian metal, you must know that Possessed had a huge influence on the whole Brazilian scene, especially in Belo Horizonte, birthplace of bands such as Sepultura and Sarcófago, Mutilator, etc., etc. Back then, were you aware of it? Did you used to exchange letters or something like that with members of the Brazilian scene?
Well, we played with Sarcófago, and the guys came over to my house before, whenever I first got, right as I was whenever I was jamming with Sadistic Intent and stuff, they came and stopped by my house. And so, yeah, I was friends with those guys, and of course, through correspondence and stuff like that. But yeah, I was very aware of the scene. Yeah. The scene came a little bit after me, so I wasn't as involved, other than as a listener for a while, Because that Seven Churches album, it was highly praised here. It still is, of course, but it had a huge impact here. Yeah, I mean, we love Brazil. I love Brazil. Brazil is like such a hugely metal country. I mean, it's like certain countries are more metal than others, and Brazil is like probably one of, if not the most metal country on the planet. So
let's go back to the past a little bit. I know that at a very young age, you were in a thrash metal band with Larry Lalonde called Blizzard.
Well, we were a hard rock band at first. I mean,
really?
we were a hard rock band. We played like Sabbath covers, and we played like Van Halen. We played like UFO. We played a Quiet Riot song. We played Wasted from Def Leppard. We just were like mostly at that point. We were starting at the beginning, which was to like play cake parties, where people drank beers, or like local gigs in the park. And we were jamming with like even Exodus back then, and Blind Illusion, and Aftermath, and Outrage. Outrage was like almost pre-Exodus kind of band, where a lot of the members from Outrage went into, some of the members from Outrage started Exodus. But yeah, we were just little kids. I think we started when we were like 11 years old or something. So I've known Larry forever, And it's cool because I still talk to him all the time, We're still good friends.
That's cool. And because Possessed music was so different, was there a specific moment that you realized that what you were doing was something truly unique?
I mean, I was always pushing the envelope. Even back in Blizzard started out as a band called Marauder. And then Marauder turned into Blizzard. And then Blizzard became 50% of Possessed, 2 of the 4 people. So even back in Marauder, I wrote a song called Hellraiser with a Z. And that was actually became Burning in Hell later on with Possessed. So I'm probably straying off the question, but I was always pushing the envelope. Like whenever I'd hear like UFO say Lucifer, or when I'd hear Ozzy say Satan, or like, anything on AC/DC, or any band that talked about the devil or had really heavy parts, like I felt like I loved that, and I wish that I had a band that was all heavy. You know what I mean? And so I kept pushing that, and eventually we came to an impasse basically, where the guys with Blizzard started listening to like the Grateful Dead and like dropping acid and stuff and going, and I hate all that hippie shit. and I essentially got kicked out of my own band. And so that's when Possessed started. That's when I hooked up with the mics, and then later went back and got Debbie and Larry and my old Blizzard band room back. I got my manager and Debbie, mostly out of revenge, but not mostly, partly out of revenge, but mostly because Larry and I are very connected. We've always been connected. So.
You didn't just coin the term death metal. You actually took part in creating it, a whole new musical genre.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of revisionists. I won't say any names or anything, but I'll say the Possessed Wiki page is the most vandalized page on Wiki because after I got shot, there was an opportunist that wanted to make a new Godfather, and they essentially wiped out a lot of my YouTube videos, changed my Wiki page constantly over and over, enough to like get the story arc away from me and almost erased me. You know what I mean? So when I came back, it was a real disappointment because I had to fight really hard to get my history back. And but when I left, it was known that Possessed was the only death metal band for almost a year. And when death metal wasn't cool, it was more like a tack in your shoe than or a stumbling block than something that would get you famous. You know what I mean? But later, when it became cool, you see all the bands, from Europe and stuff claiming, "Oh, I did that," but they don't have my '83 copyright, and they weren't there, and too many people were there to deny that. And I'll say, like, I'm not bitter because I can understand that people want to say, "Well, I had a heavy part, so therefore I was part death metal." I said, "Well, you weren't, because death metal is all encompassing. You have to have the drums. You have to sell yourself as a death metal band. You might have heavy parts of thrash here and there, but death metal was a step in an entirely different way. It was like a step away from thrash, but with thrash. Like, I didn't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I wanted to keep the melodies, and we were still very grounded in thrash and love thrash. But if you look at like all early death metal bands, like the old school death metal bands, including Death, including Sadist, including Morbid Angel, including Cannibal Corpse, including Obituary, the very early works are very thrashy because that is what death metal is at the core, is like a bastard child of thrash. It just, the timing is not as skippy, it's not as happy, it's more straightforward, and the lyrics are darker, whether it have to be, and of course the Cookie Monster vocals, so, and I know that people don't say Cookie Monster anymore, but those brandishing weaponized vocals are actually kind of like a forefront instrument in death metal, which is, I think, is cool.
Sure, you were part of the whole Bay Area scene, right?
Definitely, and again, like, because we were not calling ourselves thrash, it kind of separated us. Like, we weren't, the thrash bands loved us, but we were never part of, like, I always felt like, wow, I wish I belonged more, So that it's good today that death metal is so global, because I feel like, hey man, what I'm doing is not weird anymore, So it's and I would say that now there's so many different types of death metal. It's just such an exciting genre. I would say it's like, I say this a lot, but I would say that death metal is probably it's equivalent to the golden age of jazz. It is the most it's so complicated now, and it's just the best expanding genre in music today. I think it's like there's so much going on right now, so there's so much to take from.
Sure. Are there any modern sub-genres from death metal that you are into? I mean, how is it for you to see what they've done to your creature? Is it weird? Do you feel proud about it?
I do feel proud, and of course, I'm not claiming all death metal. I'm just claiming to be the first, and so it's neat to see like some of the some of the things that Possessed did are now just kind of staples, But I also see like other bands that have really made an impact, like Death made that whole Florida sound. Well, Death started the Florida sound, and bands like Obituary and Morbid Angel especially like really cemented that Floridian death metal, you know, where it's its own brand. I mean, you're seeing things like the blast beat made popular from Morbid Angel. I mean, it's arguable where the blast beat came from, but we all know it was Morbid Angel that made it popular in death metal. And so to see something that obvious that is now a part, or like that plink riff, you know, that Morbid Angel, you know, plink, you know, like where you scrape up, and you know, Gojira, which is another awesome band, made a whole career off that plink riff, right? But like Possessed, you're seeing like bands that are making staples, and every time that happens, it's a new piece of the puzzle and something you can draw upon to make more and more death metal. So I think it's really exciting the way, you know, there's hundreds of those kinds of things that we can draw from now, which never existed back in the beginning of Possessed. So yeah, it's exciting now. I think it's very exciting, and there's a lot more to come. Yeah.
Nice. And the impression I get is that you guys from Possessed got more technical over time. I mean, it's a natural progression for musicians, of course, but on the Beyond the Gates album and on the Eyes of Horror EP, you got maybe a little more trashy and maybe a little bit more distant from the whole satanic themes. Does it make sense?
Well, I think that my influence on Possessed, not to some brag, but it's more obvious now, you know, because I don't have to battle with the old band. And I also think that I kind of took advantage when those guys left. Larry went to Primus, and Mike just wanted to be normal. And so I figured let me put together a band that can actually help me to do what I really want to do, right? And so instead of fighting for musical freedom, now I'm directing the musical freedom, and I can do what I want. And of course, these guys are much better musicians. Well, I mean, with the exception of Larry. Larry's amazing. But I've got like veterans, like I think there's been like 25 plus members of Possessed until I finally found this band. And this band is just really, really cool. They're easy to work with. They're all very intelligent. They all know music theory, and they're very professional, you know. So we were kids, you know, in the old one, we were kids and we were the first. But as you grow, I think it's naive to say like, oh, they're not the original members, because name me one band that's been around almost 40 years that has all original members. Bands don't work that way. No band works that way of any genre. What happens is that people quit, people die, people leave, you get in fights, you have musical disagreements. You know, it's like being married to 4 ugly women, you know? It's like, so you just got to find the band that you don't want to divorce from, and most importantly, that you can work well with. And that's what Possessed is now, is the guys that it is a natural progression. It's something that I worked very hard to find, and it wasn't easy to find these guys, even though they were right there the entire time, you know, the obvious picks. So I love these guys. I mean, I don't want them to go anywhere. I just want to keep this band, this lineup, and keep making music. You know? Nice. Just a curiosity, how did you end up with Joe Satriani on that EP? Larry was taking lessons from him. Joe used to give work at Fiat Music, or Fiataroni Music down in Pinole, along with George Cole. They were in the Berkeley Squares, and of course, you know, there were a lot of bands within a few miles of where we grew up. And Joe just happened to be one of those. He had an ad in the paper, $20 a half hour for guitar lessons. And remember, nobody was famous back then, really, you know. And so Larry, he was like, Joe was famous before he was famous because he was so good. You know what I mean? Like, he was obviously one of the best guitarists in the world, even back then. And people like Steve Vai from Frank Zappa were taking lessons from him. So it wasn't rocket science to know that he was the best person to go from. And then, of course, you've seen Joe Satriani really change the spiritual arc of musicianship in a lot of bands. Like like Kirk Hammett was amazing always, but then after Joe got done with them, you see modern Metallica, you see everything just cleaner. What Joe does is take what you have, or I've never taken lessons from him, but what I see him do is take that artist, what he's worth. He doesn't try to change him, but he perfects what they're trying to say, you know, or shows them how to voice it better, you know, or cleaner, or in a more logical way, I guess, you know. So it just made sense, you know. Larry, you know, we paid for his lessons, $20 a half hour, and Larry went from great to phenomenal, you know, in a year.
That's awesome. And then the band took a break, and you returned in 2007, 2008. And
yeah, 2007, yeah.
Yeah, you did a Brazilian tour with Sadistic Intent, which was your backup band back by then. And
Persistically Sadist. No.
And I got to see your concert in Belo Horizonte, and it was one of those moments like everybody was really excited to see their metal heroes. It was like a metalhead dream come true sort of type of moment, you know. Everybody was really excited, and you already told me something about your times in Brazil, but do you have any memories of this specific tour?
I mean, that was a very early inception of what Possessed is now, you know? So I look back very fondly of my Brazilian days going over there, but I still want to come back with the real band and do it, like give you like a professional show, you know? That was like me wobbling, trying to get back on the horse, you know? But it was also historical and also very heavy. I mean, we tuned to B flat. We were, you know, I think we were playing all the songs kind of wrong, you know, but it still works, and I still had a great time, and I think that we still put on a pretty good show. And like I said, it's I loved it, and it was fun, and that was my first introduction to what Brazil really is, because when you go up in America and they teach you in high school about what Brazil is, it's nothing like what it really is. You know what I mean? Like, they'll show like the indigenous people and the jungles, and you don't realize that, you know, it's just like everywhere else. It's a modern city and with, you know, real people. And so when you go over there, you're like, oh yeah, well, you know, America's completely full of shit, you know. And so the geopolitics of it, all the way to the metal, it just seems all to kind of be all encompassing there. And Brazil is a spiritual and powerful country to me, and I loved it there. The people were awesome. Everybody was very kind, and it was a great experience. I want to come back. But what is difficult about Brazil is that you can't really take a bus from tour to tour. You have to fly everywhere. I think we took like 23 flights, and so it's grueling, man. It's really grueling. So if anything, that's what's holding me back until I'm healthy enough. But as soon as I'm stable enough, I want to go back out there. But those tours beat you up in Brazil, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah, it's difficult for the Brazilian bands as well. It's a huge country. It's a continental-sized country.
You can't drive. I mean, you might be able to drive through like some of the coastal cities if you're close enough. But if you go any certain length, you have to hop on a plane, and that in itself is you can't sleep for long periods of time. So you guys, Brazilian bands are tough. I mean, if you're traveling through Brazil, you know, you guys are tough. So I think that Brazil would probably be like one of the hardest countries I've ever toured. So
it did feel good to be back on the road, right?
Yeah, I loved Brazil. Like I said, I really, really, really want to go back, you know. In fact, I had two of my girlfriends were from Brazil. I kind of, every time I went to Brazil, and we'd visit back and forth. And so, yeah.
So that's not
Brazilian men and women are very beautiful people. You know, they're really grounded, and you know. So I know Americans are all over the place. I love America too, but it's just I love it out there. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I just love the people. I love the music. I love everything about Brazil.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. And Mr. Jeff, besides being one of the creators of an entire musical genre, you also have a life history which is truly inspiring, with a lot of perseverance and overcoming obstacles and all that. have you ever considered writing your own biography or doing a documentary or even a biopic?
I do want to do that, and that is definitely on my bucket list. But I'm still waiting for that happy ending. You know, like every time I get ahead, something knocks me back down. I want to be able to have that good ending. But yeah, I definitely want to do that. And I am making a movie. It's almost done. We still have with the actor Peter Stormare from American Gods, and he's in Fargo. He's the god with the hammer, you know. And he was in Constantine with Keanu Reeves. He played Lucifer, you know. Me and my buddy Peter, we made a movie. It's basically kind of a documentary that follows me around for a couple months and goes to some of my shows at the Whiskey in Hollywood, and just shows like what my life is. We go in some like kind of an autobiographical story, and we're almost done with it. But then COVID hit and it locked everybody up. So we're about to jump back on the horse and finish that movie, and we'll put a feature length out, you know, starring me.
That's awesome. Maybe for a 2022 release, probably.
I don't know. You guys will have to ask Peter about that. I'm waiting for Peter to feel safe and the investors to feel safe, because everything's so hinky with it's edgy with COVID. Like, you don't want to like invest in a movie where you don't know, you can't. It's hard to show. You need a good platform. You need to set everything up in advance, you know, so that we don't take a bath, you know. But yeah, we're not going to just throw the movie away. The movie is definitely on. It's just a matter of time before it comes out.
Great. You have already told us that you have plans for recording new music. You have to take some time to recover, but live music is becoming a reality once again. So what can Possessed fans expect for the near future?
Well, you know, as much as I would like to put out some commercially viable stuff, I just keep getting heavier. So hopefully you guys like heavy. And, you know, I like a Revelations of Oblivion. I think that I also want it to be like, not like a rite of passage to like plug your ears and get through. I want it to be fun to listen to. And I just want it to be I want this to be the best album, but you know, it's tough. It's tough, you know, because people become connected to the last albums. So it's like I feel like I'm competing with myself here. You know, like I just want to make it better. I want a great sounding album. I'm going to put everything into it. I want to make it heavy but easily listenable, and I just really want people to enjoy it. You know?
So that's it, Jeff. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Any messages for the Goblin TV audience, for the Brazilian fans?
Well, I love you, Brazil. Thank you for this opportunity. It's good to see Goblin taking off and getting some real names and some traction out there, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. Like I said, it was truly an honor, and I wish you all the best and hope to see you soon on tour. All right?
Obrigado.
Thank you so much. See you.
Thank you.
Para você aí que conseguiu a entrevista até o final, muito obrigado. Se você curtiu, deixe seu like, compartilhe com seus amigos, se inscreva no canal se ainda não tiver feito isso. E se você gostou ou não gostou, deixe sua sugestão aí, sugestão de bandas que vocês querem que a gente entreviste. Críticas e sugestões são muito bem-vindas. Valeu!